Welcome! Today we're going to talk about question tags. Now the first question that might arise is, what is a question tag? A question tag is a short added sentence, what we would call een aangeplakte vraagzin in Dutch. With a question tag you ask if someone agrees or disagrees with what you just said. In Dutch we make question tags with words like toch, hè, of niet soms. Look at the following examples. Dat is jouw hond, toch? With this sentence, we ask someone if it's their dog or if it's actually someone else's dog. Dat toneelstuk is erg saai, hè? With this sentence, we ask if someone agrees with you that the play is indeed very boring or that they actually really like it. In English, we also have question tags, but they're made quite differently from how we make them in Dutch. Look at the following examples. That is your book, isn't it? You have attended this class, haven't you? As you can see, in English we make question tags with a verb and a subject. You also might have noticed that both the verb and the subject are the same as in the main sentence, so the sentence before the comma. Now how does this work? If you look at the sentence, we aren't leaving soon, are we? You can see that I underlined we, because we is the subject, so has to be in the question tag again. Aren't leaving is bold, because those are all my verbs I have in the sentence, but I only need one verb for my question tag. For the question tag, we are using aren't. This because aren't takes the form of an auxiliary in the sentence, and an auxiliary is een hulpwerkwoord. As you can see, aren't has the negative form here, but becomes positive in the question tag. This is a rule. If your verb is negative in the main sentence, it has to become positive in your question tag. If it's positive in the main sentence, you have to make it negative in your question tag. If you look at the following sentence, Tom works alone, doesn't he? You can see that Tom is underlined and becomes he in the question tag, and works, our verb, will be used in the question tag, but works changes into doesn't, so it does not become workend. I'll explain this later on in this video. As you can see, works, which is the positive verb, becomes a negative verb, namely doesn't. So which words are repeated in the question tag? Only auxiliaries, so hulpwerkwoorden, are repeated in the question tag. So all forms of to be, all forms of to have, all forms of to do, can and could, will and would, and shall and should. I suggest you write those rules down so it's easier for you to make the exercises and study this. Now here's the first exercise. There are 5 sentences, each with an auxiliary verb. It's up to you to decide what your question tag should look like. Let's do the first one together. The weather is nice. The weather is our subject and is our verb. As you know, is a form of to be, so is can be repeated. Because is has the positive form here, we have to make it negative, so it becomes isn't. The weather turns into it, so your sentence will be, the weather is nice, isn't it? Now it's up to you to decide what your question tag will look like with the other 4. As you have already seen, works is one of those verbs that cannot be repeated. If your verb is not an auxiliary, it cannot be repeated, and thus do, does, or did has to be used in the question tag. Do not forget that do and does is for the present tense, while did is for the past tense. In exercise 2, you're going to make question tags with sentences that do not have auxiliaries in them. It's up to you to decide what your question tag should look like. Let's do the first one together. She dances horribly. She is our subject, so she will come back in the question tag. Dances is our verb, but it's not an auxiliary, so we have to use a form of to do. Because she is the subject, we have to use does. Remember, he, she, it gets does. So the sentence would be, she dances horribly, doesn't she? We have to use doesn't here because dances is a positive form. The other four are for you. Now with all this information it might become quite confusing. So I have a guide for you which shows each step you can take to make a question tag. The first one is to look and see if the main sentence has an auxiliary. If the main sentence does have an auxiliary, you repeat that one. If it does not have an auxiliary, you have to use do, does, or did. Step 2 is to see and look if the auxiliary is in a positive or a negative form. If it's the negative form, you have to make the question tag positive. If the main sentence has a positive form, you have to make the question tag negative. The last step is to repeat the subject of the main sentence. And that's how you make a question tag. Let's practice this. Exercise 3 combines both auxiliaries and non-auxiliaries. It's up to you to decide what your question tag should look like. Good luck! Don't forget to bring your questions and answers to the next lesson. See you then! Bye bye!